pastor, teacher, and counselor. The Bible and the her life, spiritual growth, and calling to the ministry. The Holy Spirit led Pastor Lemons to read Isaiah 61, verse 1. The Spirit of the Lord is upon me, because the Lord has anointed me to preach to the poor, heal the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and open the prison to those who are bound. She accepted her call to ministry and was commissioned and ordained an elder in full connection by the North Georgia United Methodist Conference and appointed associate pastor at Cascades United Methodist Church for 8 years. In June 2015, Reverend Lemons was appointed as senior pastor of Untitled Chapter United Methodist Church. She is a member of the North Georgia Board of Ordained Ministries. She served as one of the service coordinators for the 2015 North Georgia Annual Conference. And I'm going to read her accomplishments to you right now, but I have a title for her now. After I finish reading all this, I think you will agree with me. She graduated with honors and received her Master of Divinity degree from Gammon Theological Seminary at the Interdenominational Theological Center. She received the Gammon Theological Seminary Highest Female GPA Award and served as the student representative for the Gammon Seminary Board of Trustees. She is a second career commissioned pastor with expertise in administration and health care. She has a Bachelor's of Science in Nursing from the University of Louisiana, Lafayette, Louisiana, a dual master's from Emory University, Atlanta, Georgia, and this one is in the Master of Public Health Administration, and the other is Master of Nursing, Community Health. Pastor Lemons is a board-certified registered nurse and a board-certified primary care family nurse practitioner. With more than 20 years of nursing and administrative experience, she has provided healthcare services at universities where she developed the student health clinics and served students and staff and faculty. There's more. Reverend Terry Lemons' ultimate desire is to be in the perfect will of God by preaching, teaching, and sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ. She has served in the pulpit ministry at Cascade as a member of the pastoral leadership team during the Sunday morning worship services. She provided pastoral leadership to the Nurture Division, which includes the following areas: prayer ministry, caregivers ministry, marriage ministry, Christian education, Sunday school discipleship, which is new members, health and wellness, resurrection, and stewardship ministry. Pastor Lemons has served as the speaker at several churches as well, at the Ben Hill Cascade United Methodist Church Marriage Retreat, preacher at churches in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, Dallas, Texas, Atlanta, Georgia. She has been cited among outstanding young women of America. Is that any surprise as I've gone through this? Women of America Pastor Lemons finds her joy in sharing the love of Christ. Pastor Lemons is the wife. Her husband passed away last year, so she, like so many here, without their spouses, is moving on and here for us today. They are blessed with one daughter, LaShonda Lewis. I want to read this about Pastor Lemons, and my code has shut down my computer. So, well, here we go. Pastor Lemons led the effort to have the churches and community organizations serve for more than 300 families at her church, the Untitled Chapter United Methodist Church, days after the tornado. Y'all heard me talk about that last year, March the 25th. We were so devastated by that. Here is one of the organizers and one of the persons to help pull our community together. So she organized area churches, black and white, as well as churches from the United Methodist Council in Atlanta. They all came together with many community organizations to create a drive to help so many people who are victims of this tornado. I finally concluded that the person I'm introducing to you today is what I call a first responder minister. She has had this training through the Lord, and when this tragedy hit my community, there she was. So please join me in welcoming Pastor Lemons. Thank you.
Thank you. Greetings, House Speaker Ralston, Representative Lynn Smith, and all who are gathered here. Please accept my heartfelt gratitude for inviting me to be your chaplain on this Valentine's Day. Thank you for your leadership to the service of the citizens of our great state of Georgia. My aim this afternoon, is to maximize the importance of leading with love, because our Creator is love, and we are to love each other as He loves us. Love calls us to action, as described in 1 Corinthians chapter 13, verses 4 through 7, which describes what love is, how to love, and explains what love is not. Now hear these verses, beginning with verse 4. Love is patient. Love is kind. It does not envy. It does not boast. And it is not proud. It does not dishonor others. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no records of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices with the truth. It always protects. It always trusts, hopes, and perseveres. Love demands action. Sometimes we have to deal with some unpleasant situations which require tough love decisions. However, we have pledged to show our brotherly and sisterly concern in thoughts, in words, and deeds. Our Creator and Sustainer loves us unconditionally. As leaders, we have committed to using our time, our talents, resources, and influence to make life better for all that we serve. Love causes us to be effective, action-oriented leaders who serve all the people with hearts saturated with faith, with hope, and with love. 1 Corinthians chapter 13 reminds us of the importance of our faith, our hope, and our love. Oh, but love is the greatest of these. Today, on this Valentine's Day, we celebrate love. Leaders of the Georgia House of Representatives, those who are in authority in the state of Georgia, any visitors, and all the citizens of Georgia, I invite us to go forth in faith for the future, hope for tomorrow, and choose to share love in all the ways that we can. I want to leave you with this one thought. God, Yahweh, the Lord who is called by many names, wants each of you to know that He loves you very much. Indeed, you are loved. Let us pray. To our Creator, Sustainer, God, great is thy faithfulness to us. Give us your faith, your hope, and your love. Pour out in this legislative body wisdom, integrity, unity, and wise decisions so that they can live in love according to your divine will and your way, to continue to make the state of Georgia a safer and better place to live, and work and strive for all of our citizens. Bless these Georgia representatives with your spirit, with your courage, with your joy, with your peace, and protect them from all hurt, harm, or danger. In the majestic name of your Son and our Savior. Amen, amen, and amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Doorkeepers will unlock the doors. Members may greet the chaplain in the South Anteroom. Chair recognizes Chairman Hogan, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Your Committee on Information and Audits has read the journal of the previous legislative day and found it to be correct. And furthermore, Mr. Speaker, it's better to light a candle than to curse the darkness, a Chinese proverb.
Chairman Hogan, the chair of the Committee on Information and Audits, reports that the journal of the previous legislative day has been read and found to be correct. Is there any objection to the confirmation of the journal? The chair hears none, and the journal is confirmed. The clerk will read the resolution establishing the order of business for the day.
Mr. Burns, 159th moves finally be established as the order of business during the first part of the period. Unanimous consents. Introduction of bills and resolutions. First reading and reference of House bills and resolutions. Second reading of bills and resolutions. Reports of standing committees. Third reading and passage of uncontested local bills and resolutions. First reading and reference of Senate bills and resolutions. Morning orders.
Is there any objection to the adoption of the resolution establishing the order of business for the day? The chair hears none, and the resolution is adopted. First reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 1329 by Representative Mathis, the 144th, Bentley, the 139th, Cameron to the 1st, Way to the 9th, Scoggins the 14th, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Chapter 16 and Title 45 the official code of Georgia annotated relating to coroners.
Governmental Affairs.
House Bill 1330 by Representative Smiley, 135th, Carpenter the 4th, Stevenson the 164th, Bonner the 72nd, Gilliard the 162nd, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 7, Title 48 the official code of Georgia annotated relating to imposition rate, computation, exemptions, and credits from state income tax.
Ways and
House
Means.
Bill 1331 by Representative Meeks, the 178th, Burns, the 159th, Dickey, the 140th, England, the 116th, Bentley, the 139th, and others. Bill be titled an act to amend Title 34 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to labor and industrial relations.
Industry and Labor.
House Bill 1332 by Representative Wilson, the 80th, Beverly, the 143rd, Mitchell, the 88th, and Wilkerson, the 38th. Bill be entitled an act to amend Article 7, Chapter 4, Title 49, the official code of Georgia annotated relating to medical assistance generally.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1333 by Representative Wilson of the 80th, Beverly, the 143rd, Mitchell, the 88th, Wilkerson, the 38th, and Thomas, the 39th. Bill be titled Act to amend Article 2, Chapter 3, Title 16 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to justification and excuse.
Judiciary, Non-Civil.
House Bill 1334 by Representative Gunner of the 8th, Smith of the 18th, Washburn of the 141st, Crowell the 110th, Smith the 41st, and others. Bill be titled Act to amend Article 10 of Chapter 5 of Title 48 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to ad valorem taxation.
Ways and Means.
House Bill 1335 by Senator Smiley, the 135th, Hughley, the 136th, Buckner, the 137th, and Smith, the 133rd. Bill be titled Act to amend Chapter 4, Title 1 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to holidays and observances.
State Planning and Community Affairs.
House Bill 1336 by Representative Smiley, 135th, Hughley, the 136th, Buckner, the 137th, and Smith, the 133rd. Bill be titled, an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 7 and Title 31 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to regulation of hospitals.
Health and Human Services.
House Bill 1337 by Representative Dukes of the 154th, Green of the 151st, Hobson of the 153rd, Moore of the 90th, Jackson of the 128th. Bill be titled, an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 5 of Title 16 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to homicide.
Judiciary, non-civil.
House Bill 1338 by Representative Smith of the 18th, Jenkins, the 132nd, Green of the 151st, Evans, the 57th, Carter, the 92nd. Bill be titled, an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 2 of Title 8 and Title 12 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to solid waste management generally.
Natural Resources and Environment.
House Bill 1339 by Representative Mitchell, the 106th, Robichaud of the 48th, Schofield, the 60th, Scott of the 76th, Wilson, the 80th, and others. Bill be titled, an act to amend Article 1 of Chapter 18 and Title 45 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to state employees' health insurance.
Health and Human Services.
House Resolution 768 by Representative Hawkins, the 27th, Newton, the 123rd, Cooper, the 43rd, Williams, the 168th, Green, the 151st, and others. A resolution creating a House Study Committee on expanding long-term care options.
Special Committee on Access to Quality Health Care.
House Resolution 769 by Representative Smyrie, 135th, Buckner, 137th, Hughley, 136th, and Smith, the 133rd. A resolution creating a House Study Committee on reciprocal state immunity.
Judiciary.
House Resolution 770 by Representative Scott of the 76th, Holcomb of the 81st, Williams the 168th, and Davis the 87th. A resolution creating a House Study Committee on National Guard, Military Reserve, Veteran Resources.
Defense and Veterans Affairs.
House Resolution 771 by Representative Mitchell, the 106th, Scott of the 76th, Clark of the 108th. A resolution honoring the life of SBC Adam L. Harrell.
Transportation.
Senate Bill 281 by Senator Robertson, the 29th, Albers, the 56th, Harper, the 7th. Bill be titled, an act to amend Chapter 16 and Title 47 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to Sheriff's Retirement Fund of Georgia.
Retirement.
Senate Bill 343 by Senator Huffstetler, the 52nd, Tillery, the 19th, Orrock, the 36th, Miller, the 49th, Parent of the 42nd, and others. Bill be titled, an act to amend Title 47 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to retirement and pensions.
Retirement.
Senate Bill 352 by Senator Thompson, the 14th, Albers, the 56th, Huffstetler, the 52nd, Dugan, the 30th, McNeil, the 3rd, and others. Bill be titled, an act to amend Chapter 1 of Title 43 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to general provisions of professions and businesses.
Regulated Industries.
Senate Bill 396 by Senator Goodman, the 8th, Jones, the 22nd, Walker, the 20th, Harper, the 7th, Sims, the 12th, and others. Bill be titled, an act to amend Chapter 17 to Title 2 of the official code of Georgia annotated relating to Georgia State Nutrition Assistance Program.
Agriculture and Consumer Affairs.
That completes first readers.
Second reading of bills and resolutions. The clerk will read.
House Bill 1300 by Representative Holmes of the 129th, a bill to amend an act to create the Jasper County Water and Sewer Authority. House Bill 1301 by Representative Hogan of the 179th, Watson of the 172nd, Gamble of the 15th, Bentley of the 139th, Meeks of the 178th, and others. A bill relating to general provisions applicable to counties and municipal corporations. House Bill 1302 by Representative Bonner of the 72nd, Carpenter of the 4th Lot of the 122nd, Mathiak of the 73rd, McDonald of the 26th, and others. A bill relating to income taxes. House Bill 1303 by Representative Dickey of the 140th, England of the 116th, Perkle of the 155th, Irwin of the 28th, Bentley of the 139th, and others. A bill relating to educational programs. House Bill 1304 by Representative Hawkins of the 27th, Jackson of the 128th, Cooper of the 43rd, Dempsey of the 13th, Gaines of the 117th, and others. A bill relating to health. House Bill 1305 by Representative Neal of the 74th, Mal of the 163rd. A bill relating to the imposition rate computation, exemptions, and credits from state income tax. House Bill 1306 by Representative Hughley of the 136th, Smith of the 133rd, Smyre of the 135th, Williams of the 168th, and Buckner of the 137th. A bill relating to children and youth services. House Bill 1307 by Representative Houston of the 170th. A bill relating to fire protection and safety. House Bill 1308 by Representative Williams of the 148th, Taylor of the 173rd, Gamble of the 15th, Houston of the 170th, Jones of the 25th, and others. A bill relating to insurance. House Bill 1309 by Representative Thomas of the 65th, Schofield of the 60th, Lim of the 99th, Lewis Ward of the 109th. A bill relating to agriculture. House Bill 1310 by Representative Donohue of the 30th, Byrd of the 20th, Gamble of the 15th, Gilligan of the 24th, Cantrell of the 22nd, and others. A bill relating to property insurance. House Bill 1316 by Representative Neal of the 74th and Taylor of the 173rd. A bill relating to insurance, House Bill 1317 by Representative Barr of the 103rd, Wade of the 9th, Montana of the 17th, Barton of the 5th, Donahue of the 30th, and others. A bill relating to elections and primaries, House Bill 1318 by Representative Carter of the 92nd, Beverly of the 143rd, Mitchell of the 88th, Holcomb of the 81st, Bruce of the 61st, and others. A bill relating to general provisions regarding preparation for and conduct of primaries and elections. House Bill 1319 by Representative Werkheiser of the 157th, Wiedauer of the 119th, Gaines of the 117th, Kelly of the 16th, Green of the 151st, and others. A bill relating to Georgia Student Finance Authority, House Bill 1320 by Representative Knight of the 130th, Blackman of the 146th, Williamson of the 115th. A bill relating to revenue and taxation, House Bill 1321 by Representative Burchett of the 176th, Dempsey of the 13th, Hitchens of the 161st, Evans of the 57th, Wilson of the 80th. A bill relating to commerce, House Bill 1322 by Representative Powell of the 32nd, Jones of the 25th, Jaspers of the 11th, Mitchell of the 88th, Buckner of the 137th, and others. A bill relating to public utilities and public transportation. House Bill 1323 by Representative Camp of the 131st, a bill to provide a homestead exemption from Upson County ad valorem taxes. House Bill 1324 by Representative Camp of the 131st, Hawkins of the 27th, Newton of the 123rd, Taylor of the 173rd, Lumsden of the 12th, and others. A bill relating to emergency medical service and insurance. House Bill 1325 by Representative Camp of the 131st, a bill to provide a homestead exemption from Upson County ad valorem taxes. House Bill 1326 by Representative Camp of the 131st, a bill to provide a homestead exemption from Upson County ad valorem taxes. House Bill 1327 by Representative Camp of the 131st, a bill to provide a homestead exemption from Upson County ad valorem taxes. House Bill 1328 by Representative Camp of the 131st, a bill to amend an act to provide a homestead exemption of $10,000 from all Upson County ad valorem taxes. House Resolution 757 by Representative Chokas of the 138th, a resolution honoring the life of Sheriff Horace Irving Snyder and dedicating a mile of road in his memory. House Resolution 758 by Representative Neal of the 74th, a resolution encouraging all employers in Georgia to adopt streamlined job application processes. House Resolution 759 by Representative Neal of the 74th and Gilliard of the 162nd, a resolution urging local law enforcement agencies to establish public safety ambassador units. Senate Bill 231 by Senator Anavarte of the 31st, Payne of the 54th, Parents of the 42nd, Albers of the 56th, Halpin of the 39th, and others. A bill relating to elementary and secondary education. Senate Bill 277 by Senator Mollis of the 53rd, Harper of the 7th, Huffstetler of the 52nd, and Jen of the 47th. A bill relating to carrying and possession of firearms. Senate Bill 340 by Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd, Watson of the 1st, Burke of the 11th, Duggan of the 30th, Owl of the 48th, and others. A bill relating to funding of medical education provided by hospital authorities and designated teaching hospitals. Senate Bill 358 by Senator Kirkpatrick of the 32nd, Thompson of the 14th, Harbison of the 15th, Robertson of the 29th, and Devarte of the 31st, and others. A bill relating to the Georgia Public Safety Training Center. Senate Bill 361 by Senator Walker III of the 20th, Harbison of the 15th, Mullis of the 53rd, Cowsert of the 46th, Alberts of the 56th, and others. A bill relating to income taxes. House Bill or Senate Bill 453 by Senator Kennedy of the 18th, a bill to amend an act known as the Macon Water Authority Act. Senate Bill 457 by Senator Burns of the 23rd and Anderson of the 24th, a bill to amend an act providing for consolidation of Richmond County and the city of Augusta. Senate Bill 458 by Senator Burns of the 23rd and Anderson of the 24th, a bill to amend an act regulating public instruction for the county of Richmond. Senate Bill 462 by Senator Summers of the 13th, a bill to amend an act reconstituting the Board of Education of Lee County. Through second readers.
Reports of standing committees, the clerk will read.
Representative Rick Jaspers, the 11th District Chairman of the Committee on Transportation, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Transportation has added consideration the following resolution to the House. It's instructed me to report same back to the House. The following recommendation, House Resolution 467, do pass. Respectfully submitted, Representative Rick Jaspers, the 11th District Chairman. Representative Jan Tankersley, the 160th District Chairman of the Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination Locals, submitted the following report. Mr. Speaker, your Committee on Intergovernmental Coordination Locals added in consideration the following bills the House and the Senate, and instructed me to report the same back to the House following recommendations. House Bill 1250 do pass by substitute. House Bill 1299 do pass. House Bill 1311 do pass. House Bill 1312 do pass. House Bill 1313 do pass. House Bill 1314 do pass. House Bill 1315 do pass. Senate Bill 406 do pass. Senate Bill 407 do pass. Senate Bill 409 do pass. Senate Bill 410 do pass. Senate Bill 411 do pass. Senate Bill 412 do pass. Senate Bill 413 do pass. Senate Bill 416 do pass. Senate Bill 417 do pass. Senate Bill 418 do pass. Senate Bill 422 do pass. Senate Bill 423 do pass. Senate Bill 424 do pass. Senate Bill 425 do pass. Senate Bill 426 do pass. Senate Bill 427 do pass. Senate Bill 428 do pass. Senate Bill 429 do pass. Senate Bill 432 do pass. Senate Bill 433 do pass. Senate Bill 434 do pass. Senate Bill 447 do pass. Senate Bill 450 do pass. Senate Bill 451 do pass. Respectfully submitted. Representative Jan Tankers of the 160th District. Chairman. That completes the reading of the reports of standing committees. Okay, we're going on to the local calendar. Third reading and passage of uncontested local bills. If there is no objection, we will vote on the local calendar as a whole with a recorded vote. Hearing no objection, it is so ordered. The clerk will read the local calendar. House Bill 1250 by substitute by Representative Drenner of the 85th DeKalb County. House Bill 1299 by Representative Leverett of the 33rd Elbert County. House Bill 1311 by Representative Burchett of the 176th Lanier County. House Bill 1312 by Representative Houston of the 170th Berrien County. House Bill 1313 by Representative Burchett of the 176th Atkinson County. House Bill 1314 by Representative Camp of the 131st Upson County. House Bill 1315 by Representative Burchett of the 176th Atkinson County. Senate Bill 406 by Senator Hickman of the 4th Effingham County. Senate Bill 407 by Senator Hickman of the 4th Effingham County. Senate Bill 409 by Senator Payne of the 54th Whitfield County. Senate Bill 410 by Senator Payne of the 54th Gordon County. Senate Bill 411 by Senator Anna Duarte of the 31st Haralson County. Senate Bill 412 by Senator Anna Duarte of the 31st Polk County. Senate Bill 413 by Senator Anna Duarte of the 31st Polk County. Senate Bill 416 by Senator Tillery of the 19th Telfair County. Senate Bill 417 by Senator Harper of the 7th Berrien County. Senate Bill 418 by Senator Harper of the 7th Berrien County. Senate Bill 422 by Senator Goodman of the 8th Lowndes County. Senate Bill 423 by Senator Goodman of the 8th Lowndes County. Senate Bill 424 by Senator Goodman of the 8th Brooks County. Senate Bill 425 by Senator Goodman of the 8th Lanier County. Senate Bill 424 by Senator Goodman of the 8th Lanier County. Senate Bill 427 by Senator Goodman of the 8th Clinch County. Senate Bill 428 by Senator Goodman of the 8th Clinch County. Senate Bill 429 by Senator Goodman of the 8th Brooks County. Senate Bill 432 by Senator Burns, the 23rd Screven County. Senate Bill 433 by Senator Burns, the 23rd Screven County. Senate Bill 434 by Senator Burns, the 23rd Warren County. Senate Bill 447 by Senator Burns, the 23rd, Glasgow County. Senate Bill 450 by Senator Strickland of the 17th, Newton County. Senate Bill 451 by Senator Strickland of the 17th, Newton County.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on the local calendar? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bills? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall these bills now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bills on the local calendar will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of the bills on the local calendar. The ayes are 153, the nays are 6. These bills, having received the requisite constitutional majority, are therefore passed. What purpose does Chairman Tankersley rise?
Mr. Speaker, I rise to make a motion.
State your motion.
I move that we immediately transmit the local calendar to the Senate.
Chairman of the committee has moved that the bills that were just passed on the local calendar be immediately transmitted to the Senate. Is there objection to the lady's motion? Hearing none, it is so ordered. Okay, we're going on now to morning orders. Going on to morning orders due to the, we got several bills on the rules calendar, and I think we've got committee meetings, so I'm going to limit morning orders to 1 minute. Today, Chair recognizes the leader of the Minority Caucus, Leader Beverly, for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Today is a very special day because it's Valentine's Day, but more importantly, it's my mother's birthday. Thank you. As you can see, every woman in the house, I have given y'all a small token of appreciation for who you are, because my mother is actually in Atlanta. She's in my office in 609. The reason why I brought her here from Baltimore is because during Thanksgiving, she said, I haven't seen you in 2 years. I said, I just saw you. The pandemic. Ma, come on down for your birthday. So y'all say happy birthday to my mother. Thank you, ladies, for being wonderful. And happy Valentine's Day. Happy birthday, Mom.
Chair recognizes Chairman Bennett for a morning order. I'm sorry, Representative Bennett. I gave you a promotion there. Representative Bennett.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, Mr. Speaker. I'll take that chairmanship when you're ready.
There are days you might get one.
Well, today I rise. On the 8th of February, I stood in recognition of my dad's birthday, and today I stand in remembrance of his homegoing. One of the things in Black History Month that I neglected, I didn't have the time to put on there, was that my dad was an activist. He was a member of the PTA, NAACP, AFL-CIO, the president of the labor union for the American Paper Company for a number of years. And so I am proud to be his offspring and to recognize him today. So thank you very much to my colleagues in the House. On yesterday, you may be seated. On yesterday, my church, many of you know that I pastor a church in Douglasville, And my young people recognize Black History Day. And so I was so proud to have my young people remind us that our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. So thank you so much. That's a quote from Martin Luther King, Dr. Martin Luther King, and if I'm given the opportunity to come back, I'll read some of the other things our young people shared with us on Black History. Thank you very much, and I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Wade for a morning order.
Thank you, Speaker. I come to you today as a colleague that's very thankful for Valentine's Day, not just to recognize that of romantic love that we all have with our loved ones or that special person, but also that of the creed to love thy neighbor, that we are all equals, that we're all here as brothers and sisters. And I want to tell you, I want to apologize because I try to be articulate, and I failed to do so when I made a parliamentary inquiry, and I recognized that we had fully funded QBE in this state. I'd like to also thank every single person on the opposite side, the Democrats in this room that voted for our budget that fully funded education. Yes, it was under leadership, but we're all brothers and sisters, and I know that we all want to invest in that education. And I'll leave this with you that an 8-year-old gave me this morning before she gave to school, and I think it will stand. From the great philosopher Olaf, it says, "Together we're strong." Love you all. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative Mitchell for a morning order.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I will start with saying Happy Valentine's Day to Emer Vigfusson, because otherwise I will be in trouble. But I also, I was so hopeful today that when I asked for this morning order, what I would be able to remind folks about was an FDA hearing that was scheduled for tomorrow for COVID vaccines for children under 5. But science does not always follow the prescribed process, and that hearing is delayed to wait for data from the 3rd vaccine dose in the series for children under 5, like rotavirus, like DTaP, Hep B, polio, and others. However, today I do rise to reorient us all where we are in the time of COVID. Remember that only 1 in 5 children 5 to 9 has been vaccinated in Georgia, less than 1 in 2 children between 10 and 19, and more than 99% of our children under 5 remain unvaccinated for COVID. Remember our immunocompromised colleagues and friends. And remember our new post-pandemic idea of risk is collective, and that taking care of our communities is going to involve more active effort from here on out. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker, and I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Mallow for a morning order. He waves. Chair recognizes Representative Carter for a morning order.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Speaker Rosted. The month of February is the month where we celebrate love, and of course today is Valentine's Day. But on yesterday, on February the 13th, we celebrated Galentine's Day, and that's the day when the gal pals get together. So all of the ladies, remember, it's okay when we get together with our friends. Happy belated Galentine's Day. Speaker Ross, I yield the will.
That completes our morning orders. We're going on now to the rules calendar. Going on to the rules calendar. The clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1134.
House Bill 1134 by Representative Frustration to the 104th and others to be titled An Act to Amend Code Section 1615-4, the Official Code of Georgia annotated relating to participation in criminal gang activity prohibited. This bill having been referred to the Committee on Judiciary and Non-Civil, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Just a moment. All right. Let's give the presenters in the well our attention. If you need to have a conversation, please take them outside. Let me remind the members of the House before we start the rules calendar that the Rules Committee has limited debate to no longer than 1 hour on all of the measures on the calendar. The time is to be allocated at the discretion of the chair, and I will allocate it equally to both sides, 30 minutes to each side, which does not include the initial presentation, the minority report, or the chairman's time. Chair recognizes Chairman F. Strachan to present House Bill 1134.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, I bring to you today House Bill 1134 with a very important message for us to send to all Georgians, that this General Assembly cares about keeping them safe and that public safety is a real priority of ours. Let me begin by giving you some background. In Georgia, the Gang Investigators Alliance has provided some estimates in law enforcement. There was a meeting of the Attorney General's Gang Task Force last Wednesday where some of these numbers were presented. There are currently over 1,500 criminal street gangs in the state of Georgia and over 71,000 active gang members across the state. And this one really stuck out to me. They estimate that 60% of all violent crime that is committed in the state of Georgia is gang motivated. When you think about a majority of violent criminal offenses being related to gang involvement, it really makes clear that addressing the gang issue is a key to addressing violent crime. We, of course, believe that all Georgians deserve to be safe, and your vote today in favor of House Bill 1134 is your way to demonstrate that. To address the rising issue of gang crimes, the General Assembly has appropriated for additional resources for the Georgia Bureau of Investigation, which includes a dedicated gang task force under GBI Director Vic Reynolds. That task force has been in place and has been making cases. In fact, the GBI has brought 493 cases in 2020 and 553 cases in 2021. Those are investigated cases. But still, providing those investigations so that those offenses can be prosecuted is very important. Now, a gang prosecution unit has been proposed for this year. In fact, that prosecution unit is needed, and with this legislation, it would apply under the Attorney General's office with concurrent jurisdiction to prosecute gang crimes along with local DAs across the state. It would be restricted to the criminal gang statute for these prosecutions, and we have similar concurrent jurisdiction for anti-human trafficking laws. So the AG is already empowered to prosecute anti-human trafficking along with DAs, and we're just extending similar treatment. In fact, using much of the law as it applies to the human trafficking here in this proposal. Now, the proposed budget, which is going to be coming before us, the 2023 budget, includes in the recommendation 12 additional prosecutors for the Attorney General and over $1.3 million to support this new effort. Ultimately, what we're seeing is the GBI can investigate and make these cases, but we need prosecutors who can work in collaboration with local DAs to actually prosecute these offenses, who have support staff in the form of post-certified investigators who can help to serve subpoenas, be present for interviews, and then ultimately present these cases in court before a jury. So under this legislation, I would just say there's a few key takeaways that maybe you can consider. First of all, gangs are multi-jurisdictional. A gang doesn't just stop at the border of the county or the judicial circuit. If they're operating and their membership is operating, say, along or in a certain region of the state, involvement from the state is not only appropriate, it's really needed because of the nature of the types of crimes that we're seeing in combating gangs. Second of all, collaboration with local DAs is critical. Prosecuting these cases, and y'all may know I'm a former assistant district attorney myself, the expertise required to prosecute these offenses is really specialized. I mean, you have to know a lot of, you have to have specific information to investigate these cases and prosecute them, because because that expertise helps to identify certain aspects of gang involvement. And third, I think this is important to notice. I've met with Commissioner Timothy Ward of the Georgia Department of Corrections this year and discussed the fact that, he told me that it's estimated that 14,000 people currently incarcerated in the Georgia prison system have gang affiliation. And we heard in the gang task force meeting last week that many times non-gang affiliated individuals, when they get to prison, then are approached by a gang about becoming involved in that gang. And so the need to address gang activity within the prison system is critically important. And this task force, this prosecutor task force under the Attorney General's office, will be able to prosecute those cases. Many times our prisons are in rural parts of the state, and the need to have prosecutor support to prosecute those crimes is significant. An AG task force that can address gang crimes within the prison system is going to be incredibly helpful. Now, there's 2 letters that are on your desk here today, which I direct your attention to. There's a letter from the Georgia Chamber of Commerce. This is a scorecard issue that they've noted, and then there's a letter from the Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce. And some might ask, this is a law enforcement bill. Why is the business community weighing in on this? Public safety is critical to all Georgians across the state, and when you have legislation that is going to impact the safety of our citizens, that's important to the business community, just like everyone else. Now, at the risk of jumping too far ahead, I understand there's a minority report on this, and then also I saw paperwork that was put out on the desk today, which is in a different subject matter than the minority report is written. Let me just go ahead and try to get out in front on some of this so that you have all the facts. The bottom line is there have been circumstances where new DAs who were elected in 2020 have asserted that they have a conflict of interest in certain cases. Maybe they were affiliated with a previous criminal defense firm where they feel that they can't prosecute certain cases because it's a conflict of interest. Well, there's a procedure in place for notifying the Attorney General of those conflicts, and that procedure has been followed. And what is apparently attempting to be done here is to inject some very case-specific circumstances from local jurisdictions in a few parts of our state to try to influence your vote on this bill. All right, the first thing you're going to see, the top letter, it looks that was put out by a member of the House, it's on your desk today, is out of Macon, all right, out of Bibb County and the judicial circuit there concerning a prosecution and a request for assistance due to conflict of interest, as alleged. You'll see in the letter that was put out, 12 different DAs were requested to be conflict counsel, and they all declined in that circumstance. And that bill, the information I've been given is that bill of indictment has been dismissed. That case is not even pending as I'm here before you today. I believe the letter's dated from last fall. So that is, I would submit to you an unfair, an inexact basis to argue that this legislation shouldn't be passed. There's also in the paperwork a letter from a judge in Augusta concerning issue there. What happened was when the district attorney was elected to represent the judicial circuit there, there was a pending 54 charge gang indictment, including 17 gang members. And in addition to that case, the newly elected district attorney there, I say newly elected, but in 2020, issued a letter asserting a conflict in 80 cases, which spanned 800 pages. And the daunting number of conflicts alleged and the impact to that judicial circuit was substantial and continues to be now, and they are still dealing with that in Augusta. There are stats as to the number of conflict cases which are submitted to the Attorney General each year. In 2021, there were 486 conflict cases like this submitted. If you average the previous 19 years, it was only 126 cases per year. What am I saying? I'm saying that in 2021 alone, there was a 385% increase in the number of conflict cases sent to the Attorney General's office. And while we're talking about Augusta, that specific situation was sent to 5 other DAs asking if they would serve as the conflict district attorney to prosecute those cases, and they declined. And when you're asked as a DA to serve as conflict prosecutor and you refuse, you can't be forced to do it. So they have to agree to take it on. So it's a very difficult situation that has occurred there in Augusta. To make matters worse, the Attorney General's office has been restricted despite all of their important work to be done. They've had financial constraints and just simply not having enough prosecutors to try to intervene particularly with a large increase in conflict cases that have been submitted. So I would submit to you that the arguments you're going to hear in a moment really go to my point, which is we need greater funding, we need more prosecutors in the Attorney General's office so that justice can be served. And having prosecutors with specialized knowledge in anti-gang offenses is all the more reason to support this legislation. I think the issue here is very clear. We all talk about ensuring public safety of Georgians. With your vote yes on this bill, you can really demonstrate that. We have the ability to put prosecutors on the cases that are causing violence across the state, and to work in a multi-jurisdictional fashion, and to work in collaboration with local DAs who need the support and need the help. So I'd encourage your favorable consideration of the legislation. Mr. Speaker, I'd be happy to answer a few questions.
You have questions if you care to yield.
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Chairman Setzler to your right for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Appreciate your bringing this bill. I wanted to just clarify for our members, isn't it true that the Attorney General is the senior law enforcement officer that's elected in this state by the citizens? Is that not true?
Yes, sir. That's true.
And isn't it further true, this bill simply gives concurrent jurisdiction. This in no way takes away jurisdiction from the locals, but gives the Attorney General, duly elected by the voters, concurrent jurisdiction if their expertise and their statewide resources are needed by the locals, or if locals, for all the reasons you highlighted, are not in best position to prosecute these multi-county cases.
Yes, sir, that's exactly right. This takes nothing away from a local DA's ability to prosecute a criminal offense. This just allows the Attorney General to work, frankly, in concert with those local DAs to ensure that these gang offenses are being prosecuted and that there is a opportunity for collaboration to address this very serious issue.
Appreciate that clarification.
Thank you.
Do you further yield?
Yes, sir.
Chair recognizes Representative Tyler Paul Smith to your right for a question.
Will the gentleman yield for a question?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true that HB 1134 language was modeled after the human trafficking bill that we passed here in this body a few years ago, giving him the authority to prosecute these type of cases, and that legislation has resulted in 107 victims being rescued last year and 15 indictments last month alone?
I'm so glad you brought that up. Yes, you're exactly right, Representative. We have a great track record from the anti-human trafficking prosecutor working in the Attorney General's office currently, working with the GBI. We're talking about actual lives being saved, victims being identified and located, and you're exactly right. The track record is there to really show how effective this is.
And isn't it further true that this bill before us today will undoubtedly save countless Georgians from criminal gang crimes?
That's exactly true. Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative McLeod to your left for a question.
Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
Why is this a scorecard issue for the Chamber of Commerce?
The issue of protecting Georgians is important to the business community, just like it should be to all of us. If Georgians don't feel safe, or if visitors to our state don't feel safe because of issues concerning gang crime perpetrated for the purpose of intimidating, causing violence, causing terror within our communities, it impacts all of us, and it's something that we should all take seriously. And I applaud the Georgia Chamber of Commerce, the Metro Atlanta Chamber of Commerce for their support.
Does the gentleman further yield?
Yes, ma'am. One more.
My specific question is, why is it a scorecard issue for the chamber?
The Chamber of Commerce has a policy that you'll see on their letter of telling you if it's a scorecard issue. You'll have to talk to them about how the ins and outs of that works. But as I've said, protecting Georgians is important to all of us across the state, should be important to all of us across the state, and the business community is no different.
Chair recognizes Representative Meeks to your right for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
Isn't it true that our vibrant business climate will be further enhanced by pro-public safety legislation such as this?
That's exactly right. Yes, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Mr. Speaker, I know there are some speakers lined up on this, so I will yield the well.
You have a number of questions, and I'm not trying to get you to take one, but one of them is the majority leader of the House.
I'll yield for his question.
I didn't want to see you never mind.
Thank you.
Chair recognizes the majority leader for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Gentleman yield.
Yes, sir.
I'd like to get down to the simplicity of the facts on what we're doing here. Is it not true that the folks that we support every day, the men and women of law enforcement, risk their lives to go out and investigate and apprehend these violent crime, these violent gang members that commit these crimes?
Yes, sir. That's absolutely true.
And is it, gentleman yield?
Yes, sir.
And is it further not true that we're just giving one more tool in the toolbox of law enforcement to protect Georgians, not just the business climate, but the people of Georgia, to make sure we take these people and prosecute them, whether they be out in society, whether they're impacting prisoners in the prison system, and make sure the rule of law is what we're ruled by in Georgia. And this is good legislation that we want to make sure we provide the Attorney General's office and law enforcement in this state a means to protect Georgians. Is that not true?
Yes, Mr. Leader, that's exactly right. And I'll just say, in our anti-gang task force meeting that we had last week, this legislation was referenced as the top priority for law enforcement around the room to see that this legislation passed. I thank you, Leader, for your question, and I yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. We have other members that wish to be heard on the measure, and the chair recognizes Representative Bodie to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I appreciate the opportunity to speak in opposition today to HB 134. Let me be crystal clear that the reason why, because I want to get straight to it, the reason why that Macon RICO case was dismissed is because the state was not there to represent the state of Georgia on that gang case. The AG's office did not appear. So now, let me move forward. Members, I rise today in opposition to HB 1134. It's crystal clear that my caucus, the Georgia House Democratic Caucus, nor myself condone gang activities or gang crimes. In fact, in 2002, my family felt the deep pain and sorrow of my aunt being brutally murdered by random act of violence. So I know how it feels to get that call. All crimes, including gang crimes, should be prosecuted locally by local elected district attorneys based on the powers and protections of the U.S. and state constitution. However, HB 1134 did not address the root issue of how to efficiently and successfully prosecute gang cases in Georgia. Let me turn your attention to the letter dated November the 17th, 2021, which I refer to as document number 1 on your desk. The letter is addressed to a Bibb County Superior Court judge from the Deputy Attorney General. I won't read the entire letter from the Deputy Attorney General line by line. However, I encourage you, and I encourage every member to read the Deputy AG's letter in its entirety. This was a 16 co-defendant case, 27 count indictment, and it was a very complex RICO case that involved bribes, false statements, money laundering, and racketeering. The RICO case was indicted in December 2020, and the then DA from Macon Bibb conflicted out of the case. And again, that case was dismissed because the Attorney General did not show up for a hearing. If you read the letter from November the 17th of 2021, it stated the state is not going to be appearing today in court at 2 p.m. So, I want to turn your attention to OGCA-GA 15-18-5, which is referred to as document number 2. Number 4. It states that the state attorney general's responsibility in conflict cases is to request the services thereof or thereafter to appoint a district attorney, a solicitor general, or retired prosecutor attorney as provided in Code Section 15-18-30, or designate an attorney from the Department of Law, or appoint a competent attorney to act as district attorney pro temp in place of the district attorney. So the base of that means in this particular case, being that no private attorney would take the case in Macon because it was no resources left, being that no DA in the surrounding jurisdiction would take that case because they have their own cases, and you heard the Chief Justice state last week, the backlog of cases, so they had their own cases. So being that no other DA would take the case, it sounds like to me that the buck stops with the AG's office. We just heard one of the members ask a question or state that the Attorney General is the chief law enforcement officer. So it sounds like the buck stops with him. So based on OCGA 15-18-5, it was only one option left. The Attorney General should have designated one of his law department attorneys to go down to Macon to prosecute that RICO case. However, in the Deputy Attorney's letter to the Bibb County Superior Court judge, and I quote, "Our office does not represent the state of Georgia in this matter, and therefore cannot appear on its behalf in court." The Deputy Attorney General's letter was dated for the same day, again, that the hearing was to be scheduled at 2 p.m. In my opinion, the real and immediate need of the Attorney General's office is to address the backlog of DA conflict cases across the state. This year, which is 2021, last year, the Attorney General's office will receive nearly 700 requests for appointment of conflict counsel. That's what the AG, the Deputy AG, said in his letter to the court, November the 17th, 2021. Nearly 700 requests for assistance for the district attorneys on gang-related cases. I don't see that. I have not seen any other requests from DAs about gang cases because they are prosecuting those cases. And when they have the opportunity or the need, they reach out to ask for assistance from the AG's office and from the GBI. So members of this House, HB 1134 is all about perception. This is because any DA, as I stated right now, in the state of Georgia can ask for assistance from the AG's office. So I would say to you, 1134 is merely a bill that as soon as it's passed out of Georgia House of Representatives, it's going to be mailed, delivered, and coming to a post office and mailbox near you. This is all about perception, and it's not about protecting Georgians. If we want to protect Georgians, give the local DAs the resources. Give the local law enforcement officers the resources. Give the Department of Corrections the resources to address gangs, and also give our public defenders the resources to represent in the court of law anyone that's been convicted of any crime. With that, Mr. Speaker, because of the time constraints, I will yield the well at this time without any questions. Thank you.
Chair recognizes Representative McLaurin to speak to the bill.
Good afternoon, colleagues. I'm delighted to be up here today to see everybody. We got the governor's bill. We got two chambers, one of which is going to scorecard it. We've got a number of law enforcement across the state asking for it, some. I've thrown a snowball into an oven before, but this is about as hot as it gets. But we're up here today because Chairman Efstration's right about the first thing he said at the top of his presentation, which is that we in this chamber want to send Georgians a message that we care about public safety and we care about gang violence in community. Today's Valentine's Day, the day of love. Showing love is hard. Showing love takes attention, it takes focus. So does addressing a really difficult, complex problem. This bill is political cover. I was kind of, rich that the presenter of the bill said that we were going to try to distract from the issues by addressing specific cases, as opposed to generalizations about gangs and violence and, statewide, what people want. We put two letters in a packet on your desk today, one regarding Macon, which my colleague spoke to, and two, the Augusta Judicial Circuit, which obviously the chairman spoke to as well, but the issue being that you've got these complex gang cases that, again, if you say to a strapped local DA, hey, you want to take this case, and a bunch of people turn you down, they're tough cases. They're big, tough cases. But then you've got people in jail who, by the way, in this country are still innocent till proven guilty, always worth that reminder. They're in jail for years. The local conflict that the DA has been notified by at least a year. And the Attorney General's office still has not responded to the call. Representative Bodie went through that statute with you, 1518-5, I think it is, right? And that statute presents three options for what to do when there's a conflict. You ask a DA, you ask a private attorney, which, by the way, in that Macon letter, the AG's office admits the reason that they don't ask private attorneys is because they don't have the budget for it. I know how expensive some of the DC lawyers are that they hire to litigate hot-button social issues nationally, and it'll run your budget right out. So the AG doesn't have the resources to hire somebody else. They can't compel a DA to do it. So what is that second option? The Department of Law. You will not find one reference in that Macon letter, again, from the Attorney General's office to the court. It's a big deal every time you write the court. You want to be as honest as you can. There's no reference in that letter to even the possibility that the Department of Law could take the case unto itself. Now, let me go ahead and acknowledge something. It may be that these 12 attorneys, imagine like Avengers music and, Marvel lighting and cut scenes, and those 12 attorneys, man, you just put in those 12 and now we've solved all our ills. Give them a few peace officers, dedicated gangs, and now we'll show up for court hearings as opposed to letting RICO cases get dismissed. Maybe that's the magic bullet. I don't think it's the magic bullet. I think the issue we're dealing with here is one of political will. The problem is that Attorney General Chris Carr doesn't have political will. He's got political won't. And giving him 12 more prosecutors and a handful of cops is not going to change the culture of that office. The culture of an office which, y'all know the political legacy, he worked for a really good man. but he was never equipped to do this job. And unfortunately, this assembly is being asked to cover for a political failure by an attorney general who is not qualified and not capable of serving in this capacity sufficiently. Those are really harsh words. And I understood that coming up here, I was going to say something that people didn't like to hear. But the reason I say it is because this is my last year in the House, right? Y'all know I'm making a completely terrible and inexplicable decision to run for the other chamber. I want to acknowledge the truth where it's true, right? But the issue is, I don't want to leave here unless I ask this chamber to think critically about the way that it approaches criminal legal issues. To think critically about the moves we make. When we move authority around, we add concurrent jurisdiction here, add cops here. You know, there's a lot of buzzwords in this whole exchange, right? Multi-jurisdictional and complex cases and force multiplier. But you can't multiply force if you're not willing to bring force in the first place. I understand why the chambers want you to vote for this. It's because they need a narrative, they need a story to tell their constituents about what we're doing about crime. And crime is hard, and the chamber's not in a position over, an hour of eggs and issues to address the social determinants of crime, to address systemic poverty, to address a lack of health care, a lack of opportunity, job training, access to all kinds of the basics in life that keep somebody out of this situation. That's a longer conversation that's really difficult to have. So instead, the chamber says, both chambers in this case, y'all do us a solid by giving us a talking point to tell the businesses we represent. And that is it. That is all you will do with this bill. And it may be a message. To the chairman's original point, it may be a message to Georgians that you care about public safety. But stories can be harmful, and there are two stories here. One is the story that lets the AG off the hook for letting these conflict cases sit and defendants get dismissed, indictments to go away because of lack of political will. But the second story is that this criminal legal system does anything to make this problem better. Chairman Obstration testified in committee in a very lengthy explanation of this bill that the DJJ experiences the following problem. When an individual, a kid, a child, goes into a DJJ facility, within 48 hours they're recruited to join a gang. Can you imagine? 48 hours, children recruited to join a gang. So the question is, if you don't want gangs in the state of Georgia, then why do we send kids to those facilities? We are manufacturing gangs in DJJ, in DOC. But when we have budget hearings on those topics, we hear sunshine and roses. Well, we had 97% turnover last year, but this year it's 90%, so we made a huge improvement, says the DJJ. Or GDC, which says the burning question on everybody's minds is, do we have sufficient cell phone blocking technology to make sure that people incarcerated can't send pictures of the horrific unconstitutional conditions that they live in to outside people to advocate on their behalf? Those are the pressing issues that we hear at the budget hearings for these broken systems. But now we have a gang bill, and the chamber wants it, and so does the governor. So we're going to vote. It's going to be super predictable. But if this chamber wants a prayer, I'll say it again, of following in the footsteps of Governor Deal and the legacy of criminal legal reform in this country, if we want a prayer of addressing the spike in violent crime stemmed by social unrest and conditions of mental health that this chamber is addressing otherwise, thank God, from 2020 on, if we want a prayer of doing that, we got to get our story straight. The story is not that 12 prosecutors will save the world. The story is that we've got one hammer that we use for every nail, and the truth is that we don't even know how to use it or have the political will to use it in the cases where you're not watching. So let's add the prosecutors, let's add the jurisdiction, let's fund everything. That's what we're going to do today. And let's pray that our children find a way to navigate the system we've created for them and they don't end up in a gang. Mr. Speaker, with that, I yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. We have a minority report. I understand that it is being waived, which brings us to the chairman's time, total of 20 minutes. Chair recognizes the chair of the committee, Chairman Burchett.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I won't be up here for 20 minutes, colleagues. I just want to, sitting there listening to my colleagues speak, it was hard to come up with an argument because I think we're on the same side here. My colleagues were arguing for reform in the conflict appointment statute. We're not in that statute. What we're doing here is simply adding another tool to the toolbox. We're giving concurrent jurisdiction to our AG to be able to prosecute gang cases. That's it. That's what we're doing. And to my colleague's point about the systematic changes, I say we could probably agree on some of those things. Bring a bill that fixes those things, and let's start a conversation. But just to come up here and say, you know, we don't like your idea, when you're not even arguing against a bill that we have before us, I mean, that's not persuasive to me. I do take exception with one thing. What we do here does matter, and the bills we pass do matter. This legislation is structured just like the legislation for our human trafficking legislation, and I think that has made an impact in Georgia. So I take exception with saying that what we're doing here doesn't make a difference. That's all I have to say, folks. This is a bill that gives the AG the ability to prosecute gang crimes in Georgia. And you all know, we have gangs in Georgia, and they're not isolated to one jurisdiction. They're not isolated to South Georgia, North Georgia, West Georgia, East Georgia. They're all over the state. Why is it a bad idea to give the AG the ability to prosecute this? You ask yourself that. It's not a bad idea. It is not a bad idea. And we're just overcomplicating the problem. The problem is simple, and the solution is simple. If we want to talk about systematic change, bring a bill. I'm going to, Mr. Speaker, yield the rest of my time to Chairman Efstration. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Chair recognizes Chairman Efstration for the balance of the chairman's time.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Quite some speeches. I will just say this. You know, I'm not ignorant to the fact that it's an election year, but I've only heard one political speech from this well. I've only heard one speech which seemed to me to be more about demonizing leadership than about really getting to the heart of these issues. You know, I worked as a felony prosecutor, and what I think sometimes is removed from this beautiful chamber, from folks who maybe get really into the politics of the moment, the debate, the fact that maybe there is an issue with Macon, and it wasn't brought to me before today. Never brought that issue to me before today. But you know, there are law enforcement officers across the state that wake up early in the morning, that stay out late at night investigating these types of crimes. They put on bulletproof vests and they go out to protect you and me. There are prosecutors who take less money than they could make at a private law firm because they care about public safety in their community and they care about doing something to stop organized crime. That's what we're talking about here. It's organized crime. And I submit to you that it is a disservice to those people who risk their own lives, their own families' lives, knowing that they're taking on these types of offenders. It's a disservice to try to wrap that in politics and to try to get down here and think this is an issue worthy of having back and forth and dropping letters on desks the morning of. Well, since Macon's been brought up, I've had a chance to look into it a little bit further. It was not a gang case. It was not a gang case. It was a RICO gambling case. And it was dismissed after the indictment was improperly drawn by the previous DA, who's no longer in office, or his staff, and after 12 different other prosecutors refused to take the appointment, ultimately the court did dismiss the bill of indictment. To assert that that is a failure of this Attorney General's office, I'd submit to you, is disingenuous. And it's certainly not applicable to the issue that's before us here today. Now, to just wrap this up, I mean, you know, the issue that we're talking about here is about public safety for our state. And I would submit to you, think about those investigators. Think about those folks who are having to really make these cases, be able to present them to members of the public so that you can get a conviction in front of a jury. Think about the risk, the burden that that could be on you, and the obligation that we have to recognize that expertise and to support public safety in our state by passing measured legislation like this. I'd urge your favorable consideration of House Bill 1134 because this isn't about politics. This is about keeping Georgians safe, and nothing could be more clear, certainly to me. I yield the well.
Gentleman has yielded the well. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered on House Bill 1134? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Well, let's see here before we lock it down. What purpose does Representative Maynor rise?
Parliamentary
State your inquiry.
Is it not true that I myself, as a victim in a county, that when I went to my district attorney for something, and when the APD went to the district attorney for something, that the county attorney said, no, I am not going to prosecute that, even though the law enforcement asked her to?
If the lady so states. What purpose does Chairman Newton rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Mr. Speaker, isn't it true that much of our illegal opiate trade, especially including the deadly fentanyl overdose epidemic we're going through, is directly related to the gang activity, and that this bill will help give an additional tool to fight that side as well as all the others?
I'm sure the gentleman believes that to be true. What purpose does Representative Holly rise?
Parliamentary inquiry.
State your inquiry.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Is it not true that for as much of us who appreciate our colleague, Representative Maynor, and certainly for her being able to share here with all of us about the pains of the system, that our prosecutors already are able to prosecute well, and our Attorney General can also prosecute? All it takes is the will of the Attorney General to actually prosecute these cases, rather than going to rallies in D.C. to watch officers get beaten with the American flag.
All right, we're going to lock the machines down. On the passage of House Bill 1134, the yea ayes are 101, the nays are 56. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 963.
House Bill 963 by Representative Parrish for the 158th and others to be entitled an act to amend Chapter 13 and Title 16 of the Official Code of Georgia Antana relating to controlled substances so as to change certain provisions relative to Schedule 1 controlled substances and Schedule 4 controlled substances. This bill having referred to the Committee on Health and Human Services, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Chairman Parrish to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, House Bill 963 is just the annual update for the Georgia Controlled Substance Act. Most of you will remember that we do this each year and we update just like this. The update list comes to us from the Georgia Drugs and Narcotics and the GBIs. And as you know, our law enforcement folks have a really tough job out there. I hope you'll join me in passing 963 so that we can help our law enforcement agencies be more effective and more efficient in their work. Mr. Speaker, if there's a question, I'll take it. If not, I'll ask for your favorable consideration. I'll yield the will.
Do you yield for any questions?
Yes, sir. I'll take one or two.
Chair recognizes Representative Clark to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield?
Yes, ma'am.
I noticed on line 57 that we added the COVID-19 vaccine mRNA to this list, but we did not add the vector, which would have been the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Can you just explain so that everyone's clear why or how this list was made and why that might have been excluded?
Yes, I will. This list comes to us from the Georgia Drugs and Narcotics Agency in consultation with GBI, and mostly we're dealing with the controlled substances and the illegal drugs that we want to try to get off the street, and just enables them to do their job more effectively. Some of these drugs are basically what they were, but there'll be a little tweak to the molecular makeup, and that's what we're trying to get to this. But we'll also, every year, we'll have a new update just like this, and we'll take your question and your interest and have a conversation with them to try to make sure we do that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
No further questions.
Thank you.
Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machine on the passage of House Bill 963. The ayes are 157, the nays are 0. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1089.
House Bill 1089 by Representative Smith, the 133rd, and others to be entitled an act to amend Article 2, Chapter 9, and Title 48, the Official Code of Georgia Antana relating to road tax on motor carriers, so as to increase the penalty for certain violations of registration requirements. This bill having referred to the Committee on Motor Vehicles, that committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Representative Vance Smith to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Ladies and gentlemen of the House, House Bill 1089 deals with one item. Over the past year, there have been 873 violations of registration of motor carriers in the state of Georgia. And talking with the Department of Revenue, 90% of those violations come from out of state. So the penalty has been $25. Now, my observation would be they'd rather ask forgiveness than pay their dues on the registration, so they just take a chance going through Georgia. And when they get stopped for not having that registration, it's $25. We looked at surrounding states, and we're going from $25 to $145, which is the same as South Carolina. The law-abiding citizens that register their vehicles, it doesn't affect them at all. It's just the ones that do not abide by the law. So I'd ask you your favorable consideration, and Mr. Speaker, if there are no questions, I'll yield the will.
You have no questions. Is there any objection to the previous question being ordered? The chair hears none. The previous question is ordered. Is there any objection to agreeing to the report of the committee, which was favorable to the passage of the bill? The chair hears none. The report of the committee is agreed to. Shall this bill now pass? All those in favor of the passage of the bill will vote aye. Those opposed will vote no, and the clerk will unlock the machines. Have all members voted? Have all members voted? If so, the clerk will lock the machines on the passage of House Bill 1089. The ayes are 151, the nays are 6. This bill, having received the requisite constitutional majority, is therefore passed. Clerk will read the caption to House Bill 1154.
House Bill 1154 by Representative Carlson, 46 and others to be titled an act to amend an act creating the Board of Commissioners of Cobb County. This bill has been referred to the Committee on Governmental Affairs. That committee recommends that this bill do pass.
Chair recognizes Chairman Carson to present the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, Mr. Speaker, members of the House. I present to you House Bill 1154. This is obviously a reapportionment year. This is the reapportionment of the Cobb County Board of Commissioners and their districts. Currently, Cobb County is a 3-2 Democrat county. President Biden won Cobb County. This maintains that 3-2 Democrat majority on the Cobb County Commission. As it's currently stands right now, there's 2 county commissioners that are Dem, 2 that are Republican, and a county chair that is elected at large, of course, and Democrat. Thus, this map reflects the political composition of the county. It maintains communities of interest for Northwest Cobb, including Ackworth, West Marietta, and so forth. Northeast Cobb, where I live, and Johnson's Ferry Road, East Marietta. Southwest Cobb, including Mableton, Austell, and a middle of Cobb district that includes the urbanization along I-75, all the way from the Battery, Cumberland Mall area, all the way up to Town Center. And by the way, this map has been done with less than 1/4 of 1% deviation. You know, many times when these maps are done, their attempt to reclaim some sort of political control over the governing body. This is a 3-2 Democrat majority district, and under this map, it will very likely stay a 3-2 district. Like I said, 3-2 commission, Democrat commission majority. Like I said, President Biden won Cobb County in 2020. What the maps do is they bring together, like I said, spheres of influence and communities of interest. Churches, schools, other activities, centers that are common across the community. There's been a fair amount of politicization in regard to one commissioner that has moved within District 2. She actually moved 7-8 miles from an area of support to an area of Northeast Cobb, and actually ended up living outside. She moved as a result of the urbanization from Smyrna to Northeast Cobb. Commissioner Richardson ended up living outside the new District 2 boundaries. This does not prevent her whatsoever from continuing in her present role as commissioner. She has numerous options as to how to remain on the District 2 representative on the board. There's been some discussion in committee in regard to how this is abolishing an office or abolishing a term. That's not what this does at all. She is fully able to continue serving in her position. With that, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to take a question, but if there are no questions, I know that there might be some other speakers for this bill. I regret that we can't run this through local legislation, but not even our county is able to do so on a partisan basis, even on the Senate side. So, because we have a 3-3 split over there as well. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I'm happy to take a question. Otherwise, I will yield the well.
Do you yield for questions?
I'll yield for one question, sir.
Chair recognizes the whip of the Minority Caucus, Representative Wilkerson, to your left for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Does the gentleman yield for just 2 questions?
Yes, absolutely. To my friend.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So you mentioned the partisanship. Is that kind of the driving force to kind of keep the balance in the same by keeping the partisan alignment?
The driving force here was to keep communities of interest together: Northwest Cobb, Northeast Cobb, Southwest Cobb, and the growth and urbanization along the I-75 corridor, those areas and communities of interest.
Okay, and one last question, if you
Sure.
yield. So was there any effort at all, and we're going to hear on this map that you couldn't come to an agreement, and then on the school board map, we're going to hear shortly that the school board approved that map. Was there any attempt at all to try to work with the Democrats on this legislation? And the reason I ask that is that I'm not aware of any time that I've been here, that I've watched this legislature, that we have ever done this. And so I'm just curious, was there any effort at all to try to compromise?
I can't speak to that. I think there are other speakers coming forward to talk to that. The reapportionment is always an interesting process, and I regret that it has to be come to this way, but unfortunately, not even our county commission had a unanimous vote on this. They were split along party lines as well. So with that, Mr. Speaker, I will yield the well. Like I said, I know the hour is getting late, and there are other speakers on the bill.
All right, we do have other speakers, and I would remind those that wish to speak, those speaking in opposition will have a collective total of 30 minutes. They can allocate that amongst themselves as they see fit, and the same will apply to those speaking for the bill. Chair recognizes Representative Anulowicz to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Friends, I rise before you today from a place of frustration and exhaustion. I imagine you are all tired of hearing from me. Cobb County issues are indeed consuming what seems to be an inordinate amount of our time. I rise before you today as Vice Chair of the Cobb County Legislative Delegation. I have lived in Cobb County for more than 20 years. For almost 15 of those years, I have represented my community in public office. By community, I mean the diverse and dynamic population, the people and the businesses that call Smyrna, Fair Oaks, and the Cumberland area home. We believe in our community. We support our public schools. We cheer together for the Campbell High School Spartans, who are getting their second shout out in as many weeks. They deserve it. They're awesome. We roared together in victory when the Braves won the World Series. When those Lockheed C-130s fly low over our homes when they make that final approach to Dobbins, we wink to each other about that sweet sound of freedom. These are just some of what make up the heart and soul of my community. We are indeed a community of interest. What did I not mention as the heart of my community? A road. I have colleagues in this delegation who actually genuinely believe, while ensuring, by the way, that their communities are nestled snug as a bug, whole in their entirety in one commission district, that the true defining trait of my community is Interstate 75. a road, a massive highway that roars with the constant cacophony of commerce and commuters. While I-75 is unquestionably a critical commercial artery, it is by no means the stuff that defines a community. My community is in fact bisected in both of the maps we're discussing in this chamber today. We've heard a lot about the communities and cities that are kept whole with these maps. In committee, we heard about cities that do not yet even exist that are kept whole within these maps. While my community is divided, my city divided, do not be persuaded that these maps we are about to vote on today, that this commission map we are about to vote on in just a moment, prioritizes in any way communities of interest, because they do not. What's more, from the time these maps were but a twinkle in my colleagues' eyes, they were concealed. They were concealed from the public, they were concealed from the commissioners and the school board members, and they were concealed from the delegation. If this commission map is indeed a map that all residents in Cobb County can be proud of, why the opacity? Why offer zero opportunities for public input? This obfuscation is intensely discouraging and frustrating. Cobb County is a place that prides itself in transparency and accessibility, but this map process has been neither transparent nor accessible to the public. This was a process done in darkness, the culmination of which you are witnessing before you this afternoon in this chamber, and I am telling you, it is not who we are. It is not who we should strive to be. It is certainly not anything to be proud of. On your desks, you each have a statement from Cobb Commission Chairman Lisa Cupid. I hope you will take a moment to read it. Of note, she says, no pothole is seeking an R or D for resolution. She continues that these maps undermine the respectfulness of the elected leadership of this county when it fully draws someone out of an area that they have been elected to represent. It also furthers political polarization when districts must be drawn that are either Republican or Democrat and not a combination of both, which can result in balanced thought within the leaders that represent them. Again, that statement is on all of your desks. We are about to vote on maps that I maintain are not the product of balanced thought. No, they are the product of fear. Fear of waning influence, the fear that happens when someone realizes they might be at risk of losing power. Fear is indeed a powerful motivator. Fear is why we see a map that brazenly and utterly unnecessarily targets an incumbent. It is why we see a map that tries to convince us that an interstate highway is the defining characteristic of a community. I stand before you today as your friend and your colleague and as someone who, along with my Democratic colleagues in the Cobb delegation, has done her level best to foster a map process that is open, transparent, and collaborative. What we are about to vote on is none of those things, and I urge you to join me in voting no. I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Wynn to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. There were times in my life where I wasn't particularly the best student. In college, I was waiting tables at night, learning how to be on my own for the first time. There were times in which I was unprepared for class, and that lack of preparedness was met with accountability and consequences from my teachers. They did not cover up for me, make excuses for me, or give me the grades I didn't deserve. That's how it works in the real world for the most part. If we are unprepared in the workplace or elsewhere, we are often held accountable for that. It's understandably hard for the public to see that those rules don't apply at the General Assembly. And that's exactly what we saw last week in committee when this bill was presented. It is right and fair for the public to demand that elected officials take our job seriously, especially when it comes to decisions like local redistricting, which impact the future of over 750,000 residents in Cobb County. as lawmakers, we're not required by law or by rules to be prepared, but we are required to adhere to the standards set forth by law. And when this bill was presented in committee, the bill sponsor said, "I've never heard of packing and cracking." Section 2 of the Federal Voting Rights Act prohibits any electoral practice or procedure that minimizes or cancels the voting strength of members of racial minority. It's called vote dilution. Cracking and packing has been historically used to disenfranchise black voters and other voters of color. So I'd like to re-ask the question that was never answered in committee. You've stated you've never heard the terms packing and cracking before. As you know, when maps are drawn, we do have to comply with the Federal Voting Rights Act, which say you cannot pack or crack. So how can we members be confident that is done in your proposal if you don't even know what those terms are? I never received an answer, unless you count laughter, because all questions were shut down after that. And that's not the only question that remains unresolved. This map draws Commissioner Jerica Richardson out of her district. She was duly elected to serve in 2024. So what happens to Commissioner Jerica Richardson if she is unable to move? OCGA 1-3-11, no office to which a person has been elected to shall be abolished, nor the term of the office shortened or lengthened by local or special act during the term for which person was elected, unless the same shall be approved by the people of the jurisdiction affected in a referendum on the question. This map shortens the term of Commissioner Richardson. When I asked in committee, what happens if she is unable to move? I was told she should just pick up and move again, like we all can on a whim. Would it not have been easier to draw a map that allows Commissioner Richardson to continue to serve the people who elected her? Instead, the options are this: she will be forced to move. If she's unable to do so, this will be litigated in court, and that cost will be passed on to the voters in Cobb County. It's not just fiscally irresponsible, it's very likely to be found unconstitutional in the court of law. So I will be voting against this bill today because of the content of the bill and because of the process that was used to get this map in front of us. The idea that one representative can circumvent the will of the Board of Commissioners, the majority of the Cobb delegation, that is anti-democratic. This is the installation of minority rules. It is a dangerous precedent that should be rejected by all of us, no matter what side of the aisle we belong. But instead, we are met with gross indifference, because we have learned here at the General Assembly that you don't have to be prepared, you don't have to answer questions, you don't have to even understand state law or the legal requirements of the Voting Rights Act. Because your bill, it will be passed anyway. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.
Chair recognizes Representative Mary Frances Williams to speak to the bill.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker.